Hey Heather, it's so good to see you. How
Hello,
are you?
Stacy. I'm glad we get to see each other in person.
I know. It's been so great. We've talked to each other on the phone several times and messaged online. So it's awesome to, have a real live conversation face to face, at least through Zoom. Next
Yes,
step,
absolutely.
I'm coming to Colorado to see you. That's
I
that'll
know,
be our
and your
next.
boys will love it.
Yes, we would love it. We would love it. Well, welcome everybody to the Anxiety Detox newsletter. I have with me a special guest. This is my friend Heather Walker. Heather, as you have heard, lives in Colorado with her family. She's got a husband, two sons, and a doggy, a little fur baby. And
One girl. Sorry, one boy, one girl.
oh, I'm so sorry. You said two kids and I said two girls. I mean, two boys. Oh my gosh, I'm making it worse.
No worries, no worries.
Anyway, so Heather is fantastic. She is a very experienced PA, physician assistant with women's health. You've done that for 18 years and some urgent care work. And then you've got another exciting thing that we'll talk about in just a little bit, but you come with such a wealth of knowledge. And I originally wanted to connect with you because, I teach and coach people to reduce anxiety, really from the mental health standpoint. That's my background. And I know there's so much more to it, like from a physiological standpoint, from the body, from the inside out. And so it's just really great to connect with somebody who has that kind of expertise, and we can kind of put all of our information together and maybe share something really cool with the people who are on my newsletter list. So thank you so much for being here. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you for having me. It's lovely.
Yeah. So in your work, in your practice at the OBGYN, have you noticed like increases in mental health difficulties in your patients? I hear that it's growing, that there are bigger concerns, and I'm just wondering, like, you're on the ground running, right? Like, what do you see?
Absolutely. And everyone can probably guess this. I think, first of all, with COVID, the feeling of being out of control, I think, has been really hard for people. The stress of, should I test my kid again before we go to school today because they have a tiny sniffle or not? Like, even that in and of itself is very frustrating. Having the isolation, I think, has been very hard for a lot of people. A lot of people skipped their appointments at my office, and then I have some worries about some of their screening testing that they haven't done, and then they start to worry about that, right? So there's been a lot of lack of normalcy, right, for people's life, and that has put a lot of stress on people. They haven't been exercising as well as they could have if they were isolated at the beginning. There's just so many factors, and in the end, none of this has been healthy. The kids being home and then back at school and then back at home and all that at the beginning, I think, has been also really challenging for a lot of adults and kids as well. So yes, anxiety, depression, different types of mental health issues have definitely come in the last few years, already compounded by the fact that it was there to begin with, right? So
Sure. And are you seeing it like, there are people who were kind of already struggling, like you said, and this compounds their situation. Are you seeing people who were like not having issues at all before, like suddenly like becoming overwhelmed by this, like the changes in the past few years and like it turning into more of an issue?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the pregnant patients, of course, were so worried, like, can I even have my husband at the hospital? I mean, there's just been a multitude of issues for people. And then the concerns about having a tiny bit of family time. Can I see my family at Thanksgiving? I'm pregnant. We have COVID. All of that stuff has made it worse. But other people without mental health issues before, I think, have been coming in and just talking about, or they've gained a ton of weight because some people admitted, like, I'm drinking too much since COVID started. I'm eating too much since COVID started. I'm not exercising like I used to because of it. And so some people for sure have come in with new kind of mental health problems. And then they're like, why am I drinking more? What is that about? Is it my anxiety? Is it depression? Is it just, again, I think the lack of control has been one of the underlying issues for people.
Makes sense. And that's it's such an underlying issue for a lot of feelings of stress and anxiety, like just in feeling like you don't have control or feeling like, things are not the way you want them to be and you can't change them. That whole feeling it's tough. It is really tough. Um, you know, one of my biggest interests and one of the reasons I love, being able to connect with you is just this loving this idea and learning more in my own sense for how physical and mental health come together, how they align. And I'm especially interested in gut health. That's really because, in the past maybe 6 or 8 years is when I started to hear those little bits of research,
Mhm.
and I would say really honestly, when I first heard about like the gut health thing, I was like, okay, another fad, another, diet tricks, another like, just a way to like trick people into like paying money to, you know, get healthy, get in shape, or whatever the new diet fad is. So I really didn't have a lot of like interest in it initially. But then somewhere I read like, oh, if your gut is inflamed, it actually can cause anxiety, like not make it worse. Or, I mean, it does those things too, but like you could be a completely healthy person and do a lot of things right, and your gut be out of line and you feel anxious. And that to me was just mind blowing. So I would love to, get from you, like, what's the basic information, like physiologically, what can you tell us, a little education about gut health?
So I know it's such a complex, I mean, there's a lot of research on this right now,
Yeah.
which you have seen. And I agree with you. Several years ago, when this all started coming in, up or coming into fruition, it was like, what does this really mean? I'm learning more and more about it too lately. I think so there's so many connections, right? So neurologically, and neurons are connecting our brain to our gut, and our gut is implying like our stomach or even our esophagus, like basically mouth to rectum, right, where our stool is coming, is our digestive tract. And our brain is connected in lots of ways. So we have neurons all throughout our intestines, our stomach, our esophagus, everywhere. And of course that's connected to our brain, so that's the cell that connects to our brain, and our spinal cord and all of that. And a peripheral nervous system is kind of related, but really we're talking about like digestive tract to brain. So there's, first of all, tons of neurological information, things that happen when we're full. For example, our brain is like, oh, this makes me full. So that's one example of how it's affected or how we're connected with our brain to our gut. There's something called leptin and ghrelin, which are little, basically enzymes slash hormones that tell us like, wait a minute, I'm satisfied. Not just like my stomach feels distended, but like a satisfied or a satiety kind of mechanism. That, by the way, those don't act as well when we're not sleeping well. And so people don't feel that sensation of fullness, or of not just fullness, but satisfied in their food consumption when those hormones are off. So that's ghrelin and leptin, that's in our stomachs. And then there's a lot of basically the microbiome, right, of basically bacteria. I recently heard that it was like 6 pounds. If we took out all of the gut bacteria, it would be 6 pounds in our body.
Wow.
So that bacteria is making things that are also connecting to our brain, like neurotransmitters, such as GABA and dopamine and even serotonin, right? So there's so many examples. I mean, this we could talk about for probably 3 hours, the physiology of this. And I'm not like a neurobiologist or a neuroscientist necessarily, but there's tons of information now and real good data that is telling us that when our microbiome is off, which is the amount of bacteria, the good essentially bacteria that then is producing things, it's producing enzymes, it's breaking down our food, right, it's giving off of like amylase, lipase, all these different things, these enzymes that are helping break down our food, but it also is providing and actually making neurotransmitters that go to our brain and help balance our mood, right? So that's really important. And then lastly, I think the most important, well, I'm not sure what's the most important, but in the end, our immune system is totally related also to the way that our microbiome and our gut health is actually functioning, let alone digestive issues of that bloating feeling and the gassy feeling and just feeling uncomfortable, right? So lots of examples of how our brain is actually truly connected to our gut.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think I read something like, you said the 6 pound. I've never heard the 6 pounds,
Yeah.
but I've heard the something like if you counted like the number of cells in our body, like the microbiome would be lots more, lots more of it
Yeah.
is that bacteria than it is our actual, what we think of as ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Fascinating.
But
It's
we have to
fascinating.
have it in order to function properly.
Yeah. So that's so fascinating. Thank you for sharing all those. And I always have that broad understanding, but to get like those technical terms in there, that is, talking about how the neurotransmitters are created in our biome, that's huge. And it's really great to hear, just more of like a technical sense and just to hear your version of, how all that works. It's a little bit deeper understanding, or a lot deeper understanding than what I have. So I appreciate all that.
And one quick thing about neurotransmitters is that they probably are built in other places as well. But serotonin, if we know, so I don't know if everyone understands that quite as well, but serotonin, for example, is one of like kind of almost like the feel good hormone. Dopamine is more of like the pleasure type of thing that we get, like, oh, I tasted something delicious and it gives us a sense of like, oh, or I met a good friend and gave a hug and we have a dopamine release, right? And then GABA is just a very good like mood stabilizer. So those three things, if we take a serotonin, an SSRI, which is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it's supposed to increase our serotonin in our brain. So the biochemistry of our brain is balanced sometimes by those drugs. And some people, like with Parkinson's, have to take dopamine because there's so many other functions that's related to not just mood, but so those neurotransmitters need to be in balance for us to have a good mood.
Perfect. I love that. So on your LinkedIn profile, this is what it says. It says that your mission is supporting you to discover and unlock your best potential in this life and your healthiest you. I love that. And I feel that from you. Like you've been doing, the medical work for so long. And then it really kind of leads us into what you started to branch out into. And so tell us about ID Life.
So ID Life. So the way I had to think about that little phrase that I put on LinkedIn for a while, but really the reason I have it there is because being in clinic for all these years has been amazing. I've learned, of course, a ton. I have lots of information that I've gained from patients too. But in the end, there's times when I wish I could spend a little bit more time with people or help them with I have people, of course, and you can imagine in OB/GYN, imagine when you go to your annual or something comes up, hey, what's going on, right? And then people are just like, oh,
Yeah.
and they're telling me all of these things, and I have to help them navigate how they're going to feel better, either with their mood, or they're sad that they've gained weight, or their blood pressure's still high, same as last year, or their cholesterol's elevated, or they're just not feeling up to par, or they're having perimenopausal symptoms or postpartum depression, right? There's so many factors that I address at my office. And so what I was finding is that I'm really feeling empowered in a different way sometimes to say, hey, you know what? I wish I could have a longer conversation with you. So in the end, there's so many pieces to health, right? We have the mental health, we have spiritual health, we have physical health, even financial health. Later, we can talk about that. And then a lot of feeling better has to do with having a better life, right? Like feeling good on your day to day about yourself, whether that's mentally, physically, all of those things I just mentioned, is so important for people to just actually feel a little bit happier, right? And the definition of happiness, and we could talk about that for hours probably too.
Yeah.
in the end, I find that I'm really loving this side company that I'm working with that is my other job. And it's called ID Life. So it's individually designed life is what it stands for. And there's certain products there that we use to help people feel better. So for example, Stacy, if you said to me, "Oh, I'm not sleeping well. I just don't know what to do," I have a few things I could offer you and advice about general sleep hygiene and all those things. If someone came to me and had a different issue, I would have different ideas about how I could help them with some of these products, but also just coaching them on what else do we need to do? Like, hey, let's really talk about your water intake. Let's talk about your exercise, not just here, take these supplements and, be on your way. So it's really been wonderful for me because there's a lot of tools that I can use to help people feel better. And I just want people to, yeah, basically live their best life, right?
Amen. Amen. And it's such a great mission. And I can really see how you're, not just like wishing for that to happen, but stepping into it and really reaching out and making it happen. And I want to talk about some of these products because I've used some and I'm also excited about the new thing. So, okay, so let's talk about some of the awesome things in ID Life that we love. I have really enjoyed the samples that you sent. And I know I've told you this a couple of times, but it's like Christmas when it gets to my house. We open the package and it's, my kids are there and they're like, "What's this? I want to try this one," and it's just all of them have been really like delicious and, helpful. We'll get those like Gatorade packs that you pour in your water and that like, so those are delicious and you get electric lights. So it's like that to us, but it's got more stuff in it. So I've been using Energy. That's been my favorite. And you were just telling me some of the stuff that's in it is like the mood stabilizers. Tell me more, like you don't have to name everything, but what are some of the highlights of what's in the Energy?
So energy is something that is encapsulated caffeine so that it doesn't help people crash, right? And so a lot of people have replaced their coffee with energy. Now, I truly love the taste of coffee, so I have a little bit of coffee typically, but lots of people are like, coffee's not as good for you. Let's try this instead. So the energy has this slow released caffeine. It's like a 3-phase release. And it has GABA in it too, which I just had mentioned earlier is helpful for mood stabilization. It has some immune support in it as well. And it's essentially something that helps you feel focused. I don't know if you've noticed that, Stacy. And that's what one of the things people are like, "Oh my gosh, I drank my energy and I had all this focus," because I am finding myself like squirrel, like so many days, and a little bit of, brain fog or that memory feeling. And it really does truly help with that. There is a really big proponent for kids actually with ADHD that are using it in addition to some of the other supplements on purpose so that they don't have to take their ADHD meds. I can't promote like this is going to solve this problem necessarily. But that is definitely how a lot of people in our company are using it with some of their kiddos. That's kind of how they kind of globbed onto the company, actually, several of my colleagues. So, and it's really been like a godsend for them.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Cause I've been accused of having ADHD and it's, I think I hate to say that I'm skeptical because I am open-minded, but I didn't anticipate noticing benefits, right? Like I thought it'll be delicious and it'll probably have something in there that if I used it all the time, maybe I would notice over time. But truly just using it one time, I was like, wow, I feel focused and I feel good. And I think I wasn't snacking as much because some of that may be like the looking for a different thing to do or just trying to stay focused,
Right.
like that's a thing that happens. So I have really enjoyed that one. And, our kids have loved the hydrate. I mean, there's been a lot of good ones, but this has been my absolute favorite. And then the other thing that we have to talk about, you were just telling me before we started recording about the newest product. So go into that. Let's talk about what that is and what that means, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, and I might mention Slim in a second as well. But the new thing that you were mentioning, Stacy, is it's called a detox box. And so we have a concierge medical physician who has been working with actually the CEO of our company for years and years and years. And he designed for our company now to be able to give out to the consumers a 30-day system that's helping with detoxing not only gut, but also liver and kidney. And so it sounds like it could be this big explosion like cleanse, and it's definitely not. So if you want to go to Walgreens to get magnesium citrate, you can have like a cleanse, right? And your bowels will be emptied. That's not what it is at all. It is a detoxification kind of plan so that then people's real food and their supplements and possibly their vitamins, which is a big thing for ID Life because we have customized vitamins for each individual person, as I mentioned previously, individually designed. So those things can be absorbed better in your gut, and also detoxifying the liver and the kidneys helps everything work better. So our whole body is meant to work better. But a lot of what they were intending to help is our gut microbiome and to get our anxiety down and our depression and our brain fog. And so there was a lot of people. So he's been using this system for 12 years in his clients and patients in his office. But then now he's brought it to our company and we're able to help people. And I haven't gotten my hands on my own yet, but we had this big test group just from our people in our company with this exact system. And people were feeling lighter. They were feeling a sense of less brain fog and a little bit better memory. One gal said her hair had stopped falling out. Another person was saying that they just felt like that machine that you have, that vacuum thing where you put your sweaters under the bed in that plastic thing,
Yes.
that they just got sucked up like. And she's like, my husband, I can see his abs again finally. Like, it's funny that that what I'm
Love
talking about.
it.
I should probably figure the name of that out. But anyway, so people were just saying they felt lighter, more energy, and mood like elevation for sure. And then most people, I'd say 95% of all those people lost weight. It was between like 4 and 18 pounds, depending on the person. So we all are exposed to so many chemicals in our daily life. I mean, just the air that we're breathing, right? And the vents of our house, or the pollution and the the things we're touching for, cleaning, and all of these things before we walk out of our house. They were saying it's a huge amount of toxins that we're exposed to, even in the water, right? There's probably some. And so we just need to kind of have a reset. And so it's pills that you take on a regimented, like it's morning and evening. And there's a little packet. I should have brought my little packet of what my vitamins look like, but typically the vitamins say Heather Walker, which is my name. And then it's like AM pack, and you just tear and take them and go. You don't have 12 bottles in your kitchen, or have to get it all ready in a pill box, right? So the vitamins are amazing, but then this new detox is pills for the morning and pills for the evening. And it goes through your 30-day system. It'll say like day 1 and do this, day 2, do this. So I'm excited about it because we need a starting place for people to then feel better in all of these ways. So just as you and I had talked about this, our brain is completely connected to our gut. And so if we're able to detox that, our brain is going to do better as well.
Amen. Amen. I think, this is a big part of why I think you and I connect, is that we both share that same mission. Like, we want to help people feel good, enjoy their life, be able to like really live those moments, and just, there's so many different things that you can do to, like elevate that, to feel better, to feel good, to enjoy those moments. And, there are things that you can do like mentally to settle down, but then when you add in that physical, it's like supercharging this, this work that you're doing. And so that was why I wanted to connect with you and talk about all these great things. Tell us about Slim. You wanted to talk about.
Well, so
Slim.
Slim is probably maybe the detox will be my favorite pretty soon, as soon as we get our hands on it. But and it's going to be ready in like a week and a half. I think it'll be delivered to my house. But the Slim Plus is what I started with. So most people in our company really love the ID Nutrition, which is the customized vitamins, the energy, as you just said, I mean, hydrate, a lot of people love that too for, I can't talk about all of them. And Slim Plus, and then the sleep strips. So, but Slim Plus is coupled with something called lean, and Slim Plus has this, a lot of chromium in it, and it has some immune boosting things as well, but it also has some things to help regulate your blood sugar. And so it decreases your cravings for carbs a little bit, and it helps you feel more satisfied. And it also has a prebiotic in it, which is way huge for gut health. It doesn't have probiotics in it, but prebiotics are going to help our gut be able to then use the probiotics that should be in our gut from our food already, right? So the microbiome that I was mentioning earlier are helped a lot by these prebiotics that are in Slim Plus. So, and Slim Plus also has some mood stuff in it as well. So it helps us feel better. It helps us have a little bit of energy. It does have a little bit of the same sustained like release, like slow release caffeine, but it's a little less than the energy. So they're similar, but it has a little bit more to do with gut health probably. And it has a little bit more to do with glucose metabolism and helping us actually use some of the energy in our body to burn fat instead of just the glucose. So it really does help people lose weight. The lean is coupled with that, and that's branched chain amino acids that, again, I don't have to go into, but those things, that's kind of why I started with the company, because I was like, hey, I am not as hungry. I'm feeling better. My mood is better. And I'm not as tired in the afternoon. That like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, oh, I wish I could have some chocolate feeling. It got rid of that for me. And I noticed it hugely when I didn't have it. As you mentioned, one day, like you can notice a difference. So for me, that help. And by the way, all of this is like super clean ingredients, you know, non-GMO. There's monk fruit and stevia in most of the products, and not any artificial sweeteners or artificial colors, artificial flavors, all the things we all like kind of tout off, but it's artificial like nothing, right? And so I mean, I've had so many people be like, first of all, not only do I feel so much better, but I can't believe the quality of the ingredients are so good, right?
Yeah. Amen. That is awesome. Well, I do not promote products frequently, you know, almost never, honestly. But this is one that I would stand behind, and I have really enjoyed, you know, your wealth of knowledge. We could probably do this for another 2 or 3 hours, and I feel like I would still be like fed by your knowledge. So I'm really, really grateful for your time and for you sharing. I'm going to include some links to get to your website where people can look and learn more about ID Life. But I definitely, if you are, you know, trying to put all the pieces together to feel less anxious, you know, if that's the reason most people are following along on my newsletter, you know, definitely lean towards looking at some of those physical nutrition things that you can add to like supercharge, you know, those benefits. And Heather, I really appreciate you. I thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to connecting again soon in the future, and wish you the best with all of your endeavors.
Thank you. This was super fun. I really enjoyed it too.
Awesome.
Thanks, Stace.
Thank you.